Welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Haig John, your host of the Synapse Philosophy Group. We've got Carol Crystal and Bob Crystal, Barry Hobbs, Alan Lichter. So far, this is a powerful group, and we're on page 54 of D.D. Palmer's 1914 book, The Chiropractor. This section is called The Nervous System, and I haven't read this one in a while, and I'm so excited. Okay, here comes Luke. He's joining in. I'm going to read a little bit, and how about we pass it around again like before, everyone, okay?
Ready to
I'm
go
going to
when you
start
want me.
off. Luke, welcome. We're on page 54 of the 1914 book, okay? In biology,
Chiropractor.
pardon?
The chiropractor.
The chiropractor. Okay, the nervous system, page 54. In biology, any part of the body having a special function is an organ. In all organic beings, there is a vital principle called nerve force, nerve energy, nerve impulse, or vital force. At least he acknowledges, okay, BJ and nerve impulse, right? Remember, he doesn't like that, but he does use it here, which I think is kind of interesting. In biology, a system consists.
The force of the vital.
Excuse me. I apologize. The force of the vital and intellectual depends upon the condition of the nervous system for the amount of their expression. So, thank you for stopping me. That's a really long paragraph. It's 2 lines, but there's stuff in there, right? The force of the vital. Yeah. And the intellectual depend on the conditions of the nervous system. So does the intellectual depend on the nervous system? That's what he's saying. Yes. What were you going to say, Alan?
I was going to say a nod to that, what I posted on the Synapse site earlier about where you and I were discussing innate intellectual and whether intellectual was the right terminology. Well, here you've got Didi using it in somewhat in context to say intellectual is involved.
He is separating it though from those vital forces. What he's talking about, intellectual innate is what BJ said in this quote. And you want to read that quote, Alan? You have it?
I don't have it in front of me.
That's okay. But he separates vital and intellectual, but depend on the.
I do have it. I do have it if you want it.
Go ahead.
I posted this on the website today. It says, I found it. I just opened up The Great Divide today, and it opened up to this page, and it said, to be a chiropractor is to understand that life is innate intellectual expression from brain cell to tissue cell and return, and that death is its absence. That's from BJ, The Great Divide.
So does innate and intellectual, intellectualizing innate to me is the opposite of what we've talked about for so long, of separating innate from educated. Intellectual is the educated. My understanding, and what I of course, when you posted, I had to look up the definition in 5 different dictionaries, but
and what I said was it's possible that that's either a mistranscription or a typographical error of some sort, that it could have been innate intelligence is what he intended there. It's hard to say. There are a number of those in all the texts that all of BJ's texts. There's lots of typos and errors. Even in these books, there are.
Yeah. I'm going to keep reading this, and we'll get some more insight, right? In biology, a system consists of those organs which take as a whole contribute towards one important complex vital function. Those structures which are anatomically or functionally related. We have the human system. The whole bodily organism, the osseous whatever that means. System, yeah. The muscular system, the digestive system, the glandular, the vascular, the nervous, the cerebrospinal, the central, the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and the ganglionic. The nervous tissue contained in the cranium is known as the Uh, encephalon, or the brain. It comprises the cerebrum, cerebellum, pons, and the medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is an upward continuation of the spinal cord. The transition is the lower level of the foramen magnum. The medulla is from 3/4 to an inch long. The first cervical nerve emerges from the vertebral canal between the occipital bone and the posterior arch of the atlas. The hypoglossal, the 12th cranial nerve, arises from the medulla oblongata inside the ring of the foramen magnum. The spinal accessory portion of the vagus nerve, the 11th spinal nerve, arises from the cervical region of the cord, sometimes as low down as the 6th cervical nerve, including filaments of the rootlets from the cervical as it passes upward. It is the only nerve which finds a passageway through the large oval foramen of the occipital bone. Okay, would somebody else like to read? Alan?
Sure. Do you want me to go through the next 3 paragraphs through where it says
No.
spinal cord ending with breath is just a description of parts here.
I know. We could skip it if you guys are okay with that.
I'll go to the top of page 55, where it
Perfect.
says, Gray says the encephalon or brain is a complex organ in which resides the highest functions, consciousness, ideation, judgment, volition, and intellect, together with the centers of this special sense and for the mechanisms of life, paren, respiration and circulation, close paren, and the agent of the will. It specializes the manifestations of the intellect. Consciousness, ideation, judgment, volition, and will are of the intellect, the understanding, creations of the mind. It specializes the manifestations of the intellect. It particularizes the exhibitions of life, actions created by intelligence. So he's separating, there seems to be some interrelations there between intelligence and consciousness, but here he says he's talking about consciousness, and then it says it's created by intelligence.
Now, again, it seems like we're getting a little bit into like the 33 principles here.
Yeah.
Where he's giving us description for understanding and clarity.
Feeling, sensation, the faculty of perceiving stimulus and consciousness are senses of education, quote, centers of special sense, unquote, therefore of the mind. Quote, the mechanisms of life, quote, paren, respiration and circulation, unquote, close paren. I would prefer to say respiration and circulation are 2 of the requisites of life, 2 indispensables upon which intelligent action depends. Respiration and circulation are not controlled by the mind, are not intellectual faculties. Their action is past our comprehension. They are under the guidance of a superior intelligence than that of man. In which of the 7 divisions of the brain does the mind reside? In which of the 7 does the functional creator exist? Where is his throne from whence he rules the organism? Gray tells us that the spinal cord is composed of gray and white substances interlaced with minute fibrils, some of which serve as conducting paths between the brain centers and the spinal centers, that associating systems unite these conducting paths. He also states, quote, a purely anatomical examination fails to reveal the functional relations in the fibers, unquote. Do we want to go back and talk about that last paragraph before, where the functional creator, where does the functional creator exist? What's he talking about there?
BJ asks that in one of the later chapters in volume 33, fame and fortune. Where does the intellect reside? Where do memories reside? Where is that kept? And I think that's a question that's been asked over the ages. Where are memories kept? Do we keep them in our body? Or are we connected to an Akashic record? What's up? It's unanswerable.
In meditation, some philosophies say, where how do you know your body is there? What is knowing as you sit there? As you sit there now, what makes you aware that you have a body? If you close your eyes, is it there? How do you know? Where is that intellect that's noticing that?
Yeah.
Should I go on?
Keep going.
Through the nervous system, the intellectual receives all impressions and appreciation of the outer world. Nerve vibration is associated with consciousness. By and through it, Thon adapts itself to Thon's environments. The bodily functions control all physiological action. By and through the sympathetic portion of the nervous system, life is maintained. Through evolution, the nervous system has undergone remarkable differentiation and specialization, attaining its maximum as a dominant ruler of the human species. However, some of the animals and birds excel in some of the senses, for instance, that of smell and direction. Anatomists usually divide the nervous system into two divisions, the cerebrospinal and the sympathetic. I prefer those of special sense and vegetative, the animal and organic. The intellectual controls the nerves of the animal life, while the spiritual intelligence runs the nerves of organic life. Each nerve is a cord or bundle of fibers, a sheath or covering containing filaments, each fiber or filament being a distinct route of intercourse of motor, mental, parenmental, or sensory impulses from their origination to their destination. Nerve fibers do not inoculate, that probably should be inoculate, I think, or anastomose, as do blood vessels. Read page 865, fifth paragraph of the adjuster. The spinal nerve, just as it emerges from the intervertebral foramen, divides into four branches. The posterior primary division divides into the internal and external branch. The internal supplies the bones, joints, and the muscles about them with intervention. It may or may not supply the skin overlying them. The posterior primary division of the spinal nerve springs from the trunk immediately outside the intervertebral foramina, passes backward between the adjacent transverse processes. These divide and subdivide repeatedly, while the distribution to certain areas are more or less constant. They are very variable. No nerve, cutaneous or muscular, has a definite prescribed area of distribution. The meningeal or recurrent branches are very small and variable. They re-enter the vertebral canal through the intervertebral foramen and supply the membranes and blood vessels of the cord and vertebral ligaments. The posterior division of the spinal nerve furnishes sympathetic fibers for distribution in the walls of the blood vessels. Sometimes there's an increase or decrease in the number of vertebrae in the vertebral column. In such cases, there is corresponding increase or decrease in the number of spinal nerves. Dorsal root of the first cervical or suboccipital nerve in rare cases may be rudimentary or entirely absent. The first and second cervical nerves do not pass outward from the spinal canal through the intervertebral foramina, but between the occipital bone and the posterior arch of atlas, and the dorsal arch of the atlas, and the lamina of the axis. The 31st nerve is occasionally absent. There are sometimes one or two additional rudimentary caudal pairs of minute filaments below the 31st. About 7/10 of the body is fluid. The blood is about 1/13th of the weight of the human body. Read for yourself in the adjuster at your leisure, pages 231, 323 to 330. He goes on with a few more pages. The last two lines of the third paragraph, and read the dorsal and cervical from the opposite side in the lumbar. And so he's citing people to go to the adjuster to read for more reference as in the analysis of the physiology here. In the vertebrate animals, the nervous system consists of two divisions. One includes the brain, spinal cord, the cranial and spinal nerves. The other division is the sympathetic nervous system. The activities of the body are controlled by nerve centers by means of fibers which extend to all parts of the body. They're ending in the muscles. Those nerve fibers which originate in organs, receive and send sensations are called sensory. Nerves which are connected with the cerebral nervous system may be made up of fibers which bear messages from sense organs in the skin or elsewhere to the central nervous system, the sensory nerves, or to other fibers, the motor fibers, which carry impulses from the central nervous system to the outside. Some nerves are made up of both kinds of fibers. They are called mixed nerves. The nervous system is twofold in its stimuli, that which is somatic from the external world, concerned with animal life, the outward actions of animals, and that which is interested in the processes of nutrition and reproduction, the visceral, the excretory, the alimentary tract, the blood and lymph of the vascular system. It is twofold in its activity. It receives stimuli which incites incentive action and motor responses which respond in movements. It is twofold regarding diseases, that which is somatic, pertaining to the body walls, skin, muscles, and skeleton, and that of the viscera of the four cavities. Of all those organs collectively which are of the same or similar tissue, which especially contribute toward one of the important complex vital functions, the nervous system is the only one which is directly affected with disease, all others being directly acted upon by their connection with the nervous system.
I'm going to pause
I think
right
that's
there.
an important statement right there.
Well, that's where Speransky, that's the research from Speransky's book. Oh, I got somebody else coming in. Oh, I just lost him. If you don't get him in that waiting room in time, I didn't look up fast enough. But that part, Speransky, I don't know if anybody's ever read Speransky. I sold about 200 of them. I got so crazy about that book, but he proved chiropractic, and that's what he's talking about. Speransky, that book really, virus, bacteria, dis-ease is carried by the nerve system, and he proved it, not from the blood. And I think that's a really important factor. Where they did research, they would introduce something in the nerve system of the ear of a dog, because it's not very vascular, and so it wouldn't contaminate the neurovascular bundle. And they were transmitting virus, and that was the experiment. And really, really interesting things. And that's what Didi was saying. Well, I guess this is like 50 years before that. That was like the 1950s. But very interesting. What were your insights, Alan?
Um, I don't know that I go as far as that, although I'm not going to dispute Speransky.
We did the research. I mean, that's the thing.
But he's saying here, the nerve system is the only one which is directly affected with disease.
Okay.
All others being indirectly acted upon by their connections with the nerve system. So it's I think this is an early statement of, if you interfere with the nerve system, that's where disease can manifest.
Yeah.
That it's that's that it's the mediator in that way, is the way I read it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Can I go forward here?
Yeah, let's go forward.
The cerebrospinal and the sympathetic systems are known as the voluntary and the involuntary. The former includes the nerves of the animal life, while the latter performs the functions of organic life. Heat production depends upon the excitation of the nervous system, upon the amount of molecular vibration. Respiration, circulation, and heat are essential to life. These functions are performed in proportion to the innervating force, which, if excessive or deficient, disease or death is the result. And so there's that comment, that if the nerve system is excited or is affected by the functions or is excessive or deficient, disease or death is the result. Too much or too little?
Too much or too little?
Remember, disease is functions performed in an abnormal amount. Heat has become so intense as to soften necrose nerve tissue, thereby cause a diminution of vibratory action, of which we will learn more in future lessons. See page 415 of the adjuster. I have always stated and maintained that over or under functionating is disease, not, quote, that disease is the result of over or under function, unquote. And it's important to note the difference there.
Yeah.
That disease is that over or under function is the disease.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Not the result of over or under function.
Gotcha.
The nerve tells something to work too much, that's then disease manifests. If it tells it to work too little, then disease manifests. But it's not the over or under that's the disease. It's the nerve dysfunction that allows the symptom to appear.
Good. Good. Thank you for that.
There is a vast difference between these two statements. Let me repeat: over or under functionating, change of structure and position of one or more organs when present constitute a condition known as disease. Normal functionating, normal structure, and normal position of organs are always present in health. When the organs of the body are in normal position, their structure normal, their functions performed in a normal amount, there is health. Life is intelligent action.
That right there, that's, part of the 33, right? I've been waiting for that one little sentence. When people say, Stevenson did not get anything from D.D. Palmer, it's like, it's blatantly obvious. All this stuff is coming from D.D.
This whole thing, yeah. This whole section right here is all right there. Yeah.
It's all right
shows
there.
Up. Yeah. Life is intelligent action. Absence of life is coexistent with the separation of intelligence and material, spirit and matter, followed by dissolution, disintegration, separation into the component parts of the material body. So this pretty much is what the statement I read earlier.
Yeah.
That without the intelligence, you have death. With it, you have life. Ding, ding.
That's it. Ding, ding.
And this talks about that without the nerve function, then the maintenance of the body disappears. There's nothing to keep it, and it starts to break down.
That's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
The intellectual portion known as spirit is eternal, always existed and always will. The material always was. Its form has been subject to change as much as can be said of spirit.
Well, that last paragraph is, really was what I'm waiting for, quite honestly. Yeah. So
this is, the spirit is eternal. So innate is apart from, but a part of universal. It doesn't go away when the body, it doesn't disappear when a person dies. It just is no longer present. Intellect and of the intelligence that was running the body is no longer in that body, but it doesn't go away. It's eternal. It goes back to the universal intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is all Stevenson. Well, this is where Stevenson gets it all.
This is where he gets it all from.
Yeah.
It's the Cliff Notes.
Delafield and Pruden, in their textbook of physiology, page 413, state, it is known that certain drugs, a drug is any substance used as medicine internally or externally, introduced from without, may induce fever. Exactly how these various substances act in the incitement of fever is unknown. Explain that explain that the nerve system may play an important role in these disturbances is indicated by the fact that more or less persistent elevations of the temperature may follow puncture or hemorrhage in the corpus striatum or lesions of the bulb or certain other affections of the nervous system. That's probably afflictions of the nervous system.
Yeah.
Hemorrhage is caused by necrosis, softening of the vessel walls, a result of too much tension of the nervi vasorum. All vital action depends upon the condition of the nervous system for expression. This includes mental, motor, and sensory. I need to mark that for myself. I hadn't marked that earlier. These are there are two intelligences, man, innate and educated. Here you go again. Spirit and mind, the creator and the created. Either one can direct, innate the involuntary and educated the voluntary. The functions in normal force and amount providing the lines, nerves, of communication are normal in their structure and qualities. We good there?
We're good.
The
Anybody
cerebrospinal.
Anybody have any input there? Okay,
Right.
I'm marking paragraphs here.
I hear you. The cerebrospinal system and the sympathetic nerve system are intimately connected. The latter is derived from and dependent upon the former. It is especially concerned in the dissemination of innervation, nutrition, and the functioning of the vegetative organs. The voluntary nervous system includes the 12 pairs of cranial and 31 pairs of spinal nerves, which educated learns to control during life. The sympathetic gangliated chains have 3 pairs of cervical ganglia, 10 to 12 pairs of thoracic, 4 lumbar, and 4 or 5 sacral, all told 21 to 24 distributing centers. The involuntary nervous system, the organic nervous system, the great sympathetic group, contributes its fibers to the organs of the 4 cavities, the cranium, the chest, the abdomen, and the pelvis. Some organs are supplied with nerve fibers from other sources than the sympathetic. For instance, the heart receives fibers from the vagus, spinal accessory, and sympathetic. There are 3 layers of muscles in the back: superficial, the deep fascia, and the trapezius. The deep fascia is a dense fibrous layer attached to the occipital bone, the spines of the vertebrae, the crest of the ilium, and the spine of the scapula. The trapezius muscle is attached to the external occipital protuberance, the spinous process of the 7th cervical, and the spinous processes of all the thoracic vertebrae. To the atlas are attached the 9 pairs of muscles. To the axis are attached 11 pairs. To the remaining vertebrae are attached 35 pairs and a single muscle. One of the functions of the nervous system is sensation, by means of which we keep in touch with our surroundings. Nerves connect organs located in different parts of the body so they may act as a united and harmonious whole. One important function of the body is that of will, a provision of for the creation of thought. By the way, the cultivation of correct thinking is of great importance to a chiropractor.
What does that last sentence mean?
One important function of the body is that of will, the provision for creation of thought. By the way, the cultivation of correct thinking is of great importance to a chiropractor.
It's because the spirit moves on. So if your thinking's out of integrity, your spirit's going to be out of integrity. You don't want your spirit to be out of integrity.
Yeah, I like that.
Anybody cultivation else? Of correct thinking would be, when he talks about creation of thought and correct thinking, I think that he's saying, the nerve system is again, functioning properly allows you to have a creative mind, and that's of great importance to the chiropractor, that we have our minds work properly. Because if the nerve system is not working properly, and the innate and the parts that innate is in control of directly are not working properly, then the educated parts aren't going to work properly.
Anybody else? You know, I remember Pasquale, somebody just posted this not long ago about, you know, the only thing we should keep in our minds as chiropractor is the magnificence of chiropractic, or the amazingness of chiropractic. And I think about, like, I needed an adjustment today. I really did. And I thought, you know, you can't just, once you get great adjustments, it's hard to just go to anybody, right? Because it's not just the hands, it's not just the physical part of it. It's when that chiropractor delivering that is clear in their intention, who they are, what chiropractic is, and how they deliver it. That's the something extra, man. It is undeniable and probably unmeasurable in some way, but you guys, I mean, does anybody else experience that? You understand what I mean in that? Yeah, with these two hands. So, you know, that passion, that's what I see in that. Because I keep seeing Dee Dee up there. Honest, you got to get your thinking right, you know? That's what I got in that last sentence.
There are chiropractors that are special, and Donnie Epstein is one of them. Clay Thompson was one of them.
It's not these big greats. They're on a different level. Big greats. It's the regular guy and regular woman. That's clear.
But they're the example that you notice other people when you're in when they're in their presence. But people like that, you know, when I studied with Clay Thompson, and even as a student, he would have me sometimes at the seminar say, he was old. He said, Al, you get up and show him, and I'll talk and tell him what you're doing. And I could walk up to somebody, and before, almost as I touched their feet, he'd be saying, that's a right short leg. And before I could lift him, he's saying it got longer. He was so in tune, you know, and I only wish I was as in tune as that, but you know, we all work for that.
Well, you know, and Gonstead saying becoming one with the bone is what I have used for myself, of staying focused. You know, when the office is crazy, everything else, I go back to my very basics. I go down and check legs, clear my mind, and becoming one with that bone. At first, in practice for the first decade, I thought of, you know, if anything, I visualized the bone like an X-ray. I could see it, right? The next 10 plus years is becoming the bone. And as we put our hands there, is now we are one, and there is no separation. And for me, I receive from an adjustment like that. And I remember it was I forgot who said it, but he said, I try to have one amazing adjustment a day. If I have one, my day is complete. If I have two, it's amazing. If we're really on target and everything is just flowing, you know, we're parting the Red Sea, you know. So, you know, focusing on that one bone, one person at a time, absolutely being clear in our attention, delivering those goods. This was a good way to end this paragraph, because what do we do now? I always feel like, what do I use this for now in serving the people chiropractic, right? What do you guys think? What we've been talking about, really, right?
So yeah, I have two things on tonight's reading. You know, it reminds me again that D.D. Palmer was extremely educated, despite him having a lot of diplomas. You know, what's ironic is he did sign his own diploma as the first chiropractor.
Oh man, that's awesome. I didn't
know that. That's a whole
other
mind-blowing conversation there. You know, Dee and this whole spirit thing, the other thing that reminds me, and since I've joined this conversation over the last couple of years, is that, You know, Dee Dee was an energy healer before he became a chiropractor. And that says a lot for somebody to be in the presence of somebody else's energy. Much different than, you know, stretching out a muscle, moving a bone. And I've really focused on literally that present time consciousness, PTC, that Parker and the others had talked about even before that, including Dee Dee. Be in tune with their spirit, with their electrical system. And I'm going to say spirit again, and make sure yours is clear so it can connect with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
And it's much more impactful when I approach a client or patient, a practice member. I don't care what you call them, the person in front of me that wants assistance. It's much more impactful when you truly walk away and know that your spirit, through its physical manifestation of the adjustment, enticing their innate to unlock their spirit from universal intelligence to innate intelligence to their body parts. It's such a gratifying moment. There's no guessing, there's no second chancing. You know you're dealing with divine intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, in awe. I mean, if we're not in awe of the amazingness of the being that is being themselves on that table, our own being, and connecting that energy when we're sharing that space, right? And then, you know, the awesomeness of chiropractic and delivering that so that system can be free. And, you know, that energy's traveling out to the cosmos clearer. And, you know, the heart math people, they've measured the heart out to 8 feet, but that's the max that their instruments can measure. And, you know, it's unmeasurable, the effect of, I say, a real true chiropractic adjustment has. And you know, I would love to say I get them all the time, but some amazing adjustments, you know, I've probably had 20, and that's a lot, I feel, truly. And it's not from one person. It might be, you know, years before that perfect adjustment happens again. I'll be honest with you. So every day I'm striving for it, also to receive it.
I want to go back to part of this section here about health and disease, and where and how the and dysfunction in the body is nerves functioning, over functioning, or under functioning. And I think, you know, that goes back to something we have discussed before about, you know, well, to talk about our profession, and it's gotten lost in alleviating symptoms, and
It's easier.
some of the stuff that's been written in BJ and Dee Dee, I think, has been misconstrued. I mean, they've lost the hyphen in dis-ease and become involved in making people feel better and be well. And because I saw something, I think Barry posted something about the Spears Clinic recently. I don't know. I know I saw something online about it, but it's, you know, and people, I think our profession's gotten lost in the healing aspect as opposed to the removing nerve interference aspect and allowing the body to function properly. We're not about making people feel better. You know, sometimes you adjust somebody and they hurt more because the nerve system was interfered with, and the symptoms get worse before the body can heal and get better.
Well, you know, it's where the techniques, you know, it's results. If you're getting results, and the techniques have taken over the philosophy, and there's very little actual philosophy out there. People aren't shown to read green books. They only get philosophy from, I don't know, their CEs, I guess. And they misquote both BJ and Dee Dee all the time. I mean, all the time. What I was talking to Simon Sensen about recently is one of my intentions to do is take all of Dee Dee's writings out of the 1910 book, because people quote the mistakes from stage. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody really quote that book properly. They're usually quoting what he's trying to correct because it sounded right to them, because it's what they've been saying forever in an incorrect way. So I want to take all of Dee Dee's parts out of there and make that a book. And you know, we've talked about that while we're reading 1910, which we're going to go back to soon. Which leads me to another part, y'all. Okay, I'm throwing a little Southern out there for you. But what should we do with the rest of this? Do you guys want to continue? Because now we're getting to a little bit more of the, you know, science stuff, and which is a little bit, you know, out of date a little bit. What do you guys think? I mean, the constipation one, I've got a lot of underlining stuff from the 1954 guy, and it is actually not too bad. But we could just continue, or what do you guys think? We can go into something else.
I think there may be some. I mean, I'm trying to thumb ahead to where I might have stuff marked. I think trauma, toxin, and autosuggestion might be an interesting chapter to review.
Well, because we're halfway there, you realize, to the end. The meat's really in the beginning of this book. We're at about halfway. You know, 115 pages is where this one ends.
Yeah, I agree. I would say jump to page 72.
72?
Yeah, trauma, toxin, and autosuggestion. I think that's a good topic. And between now and next week, I might try to review some and look at what else is here and see if there's other stuff we might want to look at. We might want to look at impulse. I seem to have a lot noted there. I'll go back and review it.
Yeah,
I think there's a couple things in here that might be worth going back to yet before we give it up.
There's a few things here and there, but you know, can we read the whole thing? Are we getting a lot out of that reading? The catarrh, which is phlegm, you know?
No, I'm not saying we should read every chapter. I'm saying maybe we'll pick a couple of chapters that are left here that maybe have more value.
Yeah.
And read a couple of them and then move on to something else.
Impulse is, you know, I'm intrigued by it, and I really want to read more of it. That might be a good one too at page 80. But let's start at 72 next time then. What do you guys feel?
That works for me.
Done. Okay, it is set. The gavel has come down. Okay. Well, everybody, it was a great night, and we got a lot of reading out of this one, which I think is important because we're getting his words, and there was, you know, he's laying it out in a specific way, which, you know, I feel blessed to be able to absorb. Thank you, Alan, for your reading, and everybody else for their insights.
I think it's interesting reading because it shows his detailed knowledge that was available at that time.
Yeah.
And certainly even the definition, the explanation of how the nerves work has been expanded since then. But the amount of knowledge he had at over a century ago now,
yeah,
is remarkable and interesting to note and say, you know, and say this was a brilliant guy that understood scientifically, knew what he was doing, as well as creating a whole new concept of healing.
We take for granted of getting, you know, buying your textbooks and getting those textbooks. This is the textbook. I mean, this is what he had. These are pamphlets as his class, you know, texts, and that's
Right.
what he used. So he had to create it. Barry, you just unmuted. You got something?
No, I completely agree with that comment. And you know, speaking of Stevenson and people saying he didn't get stuff from D.D. Palmer, Haig, I would say so. Craven was Stevenson's philosophy instructor, and Craven was instructed by BJ and D.D. So, you know, they need to look into stuff before they make comments like that.
Yeah. Read a green book, please, before you comment on green books. No, I mean, I want everybody to be. I'm joking. I'm feeling.
No, I'm not joking. Why don't you start at Green Book number 1 instead of number 14, the textbook?
Yes.
It's a general textbook. It's not specific. That's why it's called the textbook of chiropractic.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Well said. Thank you for that. Well, once we get through this, let's just discuss a second. Where do we want to go? Back to the 33, because we talked about that. We can go back to 1910. We, you know, got to hit that in parts because it's so big. You know, we've all got them all. We can get it all worked out. Laws of Life is pretty good too. I'm looking at that one right now. And just to give everybody an idea, this is the basis and theory of medicine, Speransky. And What is the role of the nervous system in disease? Horrible to read, let me tell you. Horrible to read. So our chiropractor friends, and this is from Werner, Wyant, and Watkins, wrote The Rational Bacteriology and summarized it for us. Maybe we should read an obscure book like this. It's not that obscure. It's an important book in chiropractic because it really talks about germ theory. And mine is from Dr. Watkins himself, which I feel very honored to have. But you know, some of these things are really, really important bits of our philosophy outside of the PSC. Okay. All right. I love you guys. Have a fantastic night. God bless you. And I will see you next Wednesday. Oh, excuse me.
Good night, everybody. Next Tuesday.
It's been a great day.
Get adjusted, Haig.
Oh, I need it.
You need a
I need
tune-up,
it.
dude.